All right, so another episode from the coach's desk. Something that we get asked a lot, that we've kind of struggled with this answer before, is, well, and people ask every time they come in the gym, well, tell me about your programming. And we also face this whenever we teach a military personnel. We show up and they expect we're going to try to sell them this Kool-Aid, this special methodology. This is how you need to program because this is how we program and this is the best way. And I think what it really comes down to is that Atomic Athlete doesn't have a style of programming.
No.
We have a structure that we apply to meet certain demands.
Yep.
And that structure covers everything. It covers speed, it covers power, aerobic capacity, endurance, strength, work capacity. And essentially the way we program, at least in the gym, for example, is for our gym athletes.
Yes. Yeah, it's so important to point that out because, you know, if you're looking at our gym athletes, they're so completely different from a soldier, all right? Or specifically a soldier who might be preparing for assessment and selection. That athlete needs a lot more road work than one of our athletes, right? Who they may just be trying to improve their body composition, get a little bit stronger, improve their metabolic performance slowly over time. But they're not looking to do something very specific.
Yeah.
But the thing about our approach to programming is that we don't have one method for these two in this example, very separate and very different types
Yep.
of athletes. We're going to program an appropriate session or an appropriate cycle for our soldier, and we're going to program an appropriate cycle for our in-gym athletes. And those two products are going to be very different.
For example, the gym, all right, obviously we have a commercial gym, civilians, and it's actually, I would say a premium gym price. It's not cheap to come train. It's not golds or anything like that.
Yeah.
And so obviously from the business side of things, the programming we provide for our in-house athletes needs to be something that is effective, safe, and also fun. Like it's an important thing that our athletes come and enjoy themselves when they're here and that they walk away from the session, they like it. We're always monitoring our athletes, how interested they are in this programming,
Yep.
how they're responding to it. Because the setting that we're running in our in-house programming here, very different setting than someone who's, for example, we used the military analogy earlier. Preference doesn't really have too much, importance in preparing for a selection or preparing for service. It's like, hey, this is what you have to do to be successful, and the programming that we're going to give you, it doesn't matter if you like it, you have to do it. The structure and the hierarchy that we apply, everything has essentially, I guess, floors and ceilings or structures in place that have to do with volume and intensity, which is what we talked about in the previous episode.
Yep.
Obviously, exercise selection goes in play too. Like if you're a soldier, lots of road work, rucking, and running, right? Our athletes are going to spend time here on the rower, the skier, a stationary Concept 2 bicycle. We use single mode of choice a lot, Essentially what we have to do is basically give the best programming possible to the in-house athletes and actually have them continue to come, because ultimately the gym is a business. But when you look at our programs that are designed for very specific goals or metrics, whether it's strength, hypertrophy, speed, rucking, military selection, some of that preference kind of goes out the window, because the ultimate goal is not to have fun. The ultimate goal is to actually see effective programming, create high levels of fitness.
I think that one of the sort of litmus tests that I run our programming through for the gym is basically like if I were to walk into Atomic, never having been in here, how would I gauge that it's a good gym? How would I know that they are providing their athletes with a value that meets or exceeds the price of the membership? And so there's a couple of questions in there. Is the programming willy-nilly, or is the program built? Does the program have a big picture in mind? Does it have a purpose? Does it have a goal? Is it progressed? And then the final question, is it periodized? Which is a little bit more of an esoteric subject that we went into in one of our other videos. I would encourage you to look at that if you're unclear about what that is. It's in our warrior cycle video. And then also another question that I have about like if a gym is good is, does it offer the athlete some agency? We would love to have every athlete doing front squats exactly like, a gold medal winning Olympic athlete, right? Who can catch a clean in the perfect bottom position, elbows high, and come up. But that's not the reality of it. In fact, some athletes can't even hold a Olympic front rack position for their front squat. So, or they have some sort of injury to their shoulder or to their wrist that prevents them from even doing front squat. So, what does that athlete have available to them to get the same adaptation as their peers under the same programming, but within their ability? And so that's another big thing that we're looking for whenever we're looking to see whether or not our programming is good or worthwhile, or as a sort of litmus test to make sure that we're providing our athletes with the best value for their membership cost.
So to answer the question, like how does Atomic Athlete program? The answer is it depends. It depends on who we're programming for. Gym athlete, military, law enforcement, fire, jiu-jitsu athlete, combative athlete. What we simply have is a structure that we use that has guidelines that kind of revolve around volume and intensity and frequency as well. And then we plug and play the appropriate exercises and loading based on what we're trying to accomplish. So there is no, this is our style, this is our method. We essentially just program smart and effectively based on the end goal.
And one thing I would like to add to that is that we are always pushing our programming forward. We've had very successful programs in the past and we've never repeated them because it's more important to take the data from that good cycle, that good program, and to try to turn it into something even better the next time. It's better to try to iterate upon that value than to just say, hey, this is really good, let's just repeat it in 3 months or in 6 months or something like that. We're always trying to continually improve our programming product, whether or not it's for our gym athletes or for any other sort of athlete that we might be programming for.
And realistically, we could do that if it's effective, but, but like we want to continue to push the philosophy and the idea of like continued improvement. Let's continue to try to figure out what works, figure out what doesn't. I mean, I think
it's like a professional tenet that we have, and we've never really stated it explicitly, but it is.
I mean, I'd say, was it Raider versus Savage? I think Raider was probably a better program. You know, Savage was a newer program. Both were 3-phase, strength-driven warrior cycles, but I feel like Raider's our go-to. If someone emails like, hey, I want a strength program that like is really awesome, it's like Raider. Like Comanche, Mohican, Apache. Like do that one. And time and time again.
Fucking great, just great names.
Yeah, well, that's another thing about the Warrior Cycles. They have cool names.
Yeah, the Warrior Cycles do have cool names. Another thing, so the Warrior Cycles, like if I can sort of go off our topic here and just sort of digress for a second, Warrior Cycles are called that because the very first one was Berserker. And then
COVID,
no. Actually, the very first one was Goliath.
Yeah.
And that was the first foray into like this totally different type of programming. And then we did like Berserker, Juggernaut. We were going to do Berserker, I think Barbarian, and then Juggernaut or something like that.
COVID hit.
COVID hit. Yeah. So anyway, I was like, well, I kind of want to continue this idea where, because each one of those, Goliath into Berserker, into Juggernaut, into whatever it was going to be next. They were all building upon one another, and I was like, I kind of like this idea of like really building upon it, but then also bringing in the metabolic side. But how can I do that? And so I was like, well, they're all kind of like warriors, so I know what I'll do. I'll just like create this protocol around the idea of naming it after warriors, but I'll have a theme with the warriors. So the Raider cycle are all Native American tribes who had some sort of raiding propensity in their wartime tactics, and especially with Comanche. It's really named primarily for the first cycle, which is or the first phase, which is Comanche. But anyway, so that's the idea, and then that was just kind of cool.
Hammer and Anvil was cavalry units.
Hammer and Anvil was all cavalry units. So we had like Keshig, we had Cossack, we had Hussar, the winged Hussars. And so on.
Rough Rider.
Rough Rider, so they were kind of cavalry units from all over. Of course, it was a metabolic cycle. Cavalry units are good at covering ground. So that was the idea behind that.
Yeah.
Savage was all island-based warriors. So we had Koa.
Keltoi Samurai.
Koa, Keltoi Samurai. Samurai, everybody knows. Koa were Hawaiian warriors known for their, like, not only their grappling, but their very savage hand-to-hand combat style. And then Keltoi were the Celts who, you know, basically repelled the Roman Empire for a really long time.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah.
All right. Good one.